Okay, how to start that again. Ran into a couple technical issues here. So I wanted to create a video deciphering what is CSPM, right? Plainly speaking, what is Cloud Security Posture Management? What is the fuss over how this tool works? I think there's a lot of misunderstandings out there what these tools actually aim to achieve for your organization. But B, I hope this takeaway is more simplified to understand the nuance behind some of these tools, right? To increase your security. So at a high level, it's likely your organization has made a choice, right? Whether that's Azure, whether that's Google Cloud, or AWS to adopt some services, right? Whether that's VPCs, virtual nets, whatever the case may be. They want to use cloud services to move to OpEx instead of CapEx, right? Things of that nature. They're already kind of bought in as far as that. Now we have to move into how these tools kind of interact and play in the larger part. What should we look for in a CSPM when we're evaluating a vendor, right? So first, it's important to understand that most of these have some form of discovery that is going to be a part of their process in the back end. Typically, if I'm using some form of an agent or agentless, right, when we're talking about protection, similarly to cloud security posture management, this is going to operate and enumerate APIs in your environment and check for various types of checks based on what your organization is doing, right? So if you see here, you have your resource inventory. This is going to enumerate where all the resources that your organization does have deployed inside your Azure subscription, tenant, your Google Cloud project, your Amazon Web Services account, things of that nature, right, when you want to think about that. And then you're going to see this word assessment, right? But what exactly does this mean? Well, typically, this will run some form of checks based on your configuration, and then this will give you some form of output, right? This output will tell you, based on the findings here, we annotate that you have a, let's say for simplicity purposes, out of 1 out of 100, 86% of the controls you have implemented are secure, and let's say the delta between that is not secure, right? This is going to essentially know what is going on in your environment, but understand the connection between both of these. I can't know what I'm protecting without some type of inventory, right? So that's going to be the assessment phase. And then you move down here into compliance monitoring. It's likely your organization has either some regulatory vertical or type of framework that they're trying to attest to, right? Whether that's GDPR, HIPAA, a number of regulatory compliance things of that nature, right? We want to ensure that the controls we do have in place on our resources are compliant, right? So that's going to be that piece of compliance monitoring. So just to break that down, right? So we move into our assessments, and then now we need to monitor the resources that we do deploy, right? The APIs, the secrets, the keys, anything of that nature. Are they compliant with what we're operating in? And then we're going to look at our configurations, right? So it's no surprise that there is still a number of attacks out there based on real-world, actually fallacies, if you will, on certain resources. But you, have to understand that if you start early in the process, i.e. we adopt our cloud environment, we're moving into Azure, whatever the case may be, you need to be aware of the secure configurations, because this can catch you up to a number of things. And I'm sorry if that looks a little tacky there. Essentially, this is a large proponent of where attacks get exploited. This will surface, right? This tool helps surface those vulnerabilities ahead of time, ideally before it gets out of hand. Right, so something to consider. And let me clean this up here a little bit. So what exactly should we look for, right? A couple of key areas you want to understand. Your threat detection is going to fall into a little realm of CWPP, right? What is CWPP? In a nutshell, this is just called Cloud Workload Protection Platform. I don't make the acronyms. I know cybersecurity is full of them, but to show you what that is, right? The threat detection part of it could be a larger offering, a part of the CSPM. And what that means is this could be either agent-based or agentless. It just depends on which type of said vendor and the way they do threat detection, right? A lot of people prefer agentless at this current moment. However, there is still uses of agents out there. And then you'll see over here, policy enforcement. So every cloud service provider, right, writ large, has some form of constraints, policies, however they define it, that you can apply to the tenant, account, your entire environment, right? Now, most of the time, what I see is this misunderstanding that the CSP is going to just have, safe defaults out of the box, right? This is the concept that Amazon dubs as landing zones, well-architect frameworks, things like that, right? You want to use those to guide those conversations on which policies, what are the impacts, what's the rationale behind those, but that's how you want to kind of think about it. And then you move down here to anomaly detection, right? So based on our threat detection, what stands out from a baseline that we've defined in our workloads. So for instance, I use Defender for Cloud for my Kubernetes clusters. I have tested in real time when I run certain types of privileged pods, if it detects it, how fast it detects it, so it deviates from the baseline. And then I know if it's a true positive, right, that it's actually happening, or a false positive in real time. I'm sorry for the sloppiness of this specific cursor that I'm using in this tablet, drawing pen, but I'm trying to illustrate that purpose there. So let me switch over to mouse. So in a nutshell, we want to think about next would be our incident response, right? So based on the visibility we're gauging, as far as threat detection, incident response can come into the picture if something is detected as true positive, right? Then we move into the incident response plan. So if you can see here, right, this would be essentially helping and guiding those, what we call complex environments, if you will. Now, a huge proponent you'll start seeing that a lot of vendors are starting to push out is this saying called attack paths, right? And what are attack paths in a nutshell? I think they're very pivotal in your decision of a CSPM. What they do is essentially show you, okay, based on your resources that we have detected, right, from the inventory side, and based on our assessment, you need to prioritize your time to fix those types of findings, right? But there's a lot of noise sometimes. What is relevant, what's not relevant? That is the intention of attack paths. So you want to think about this, what is relevant, what isn't relevant? And the reason I say this is because just like any security practitioner, you will be overdaunted by noise alerts, right? And we need to quickly identify what is pertinent to our environment, what is not pertinent, right? So you'll see this concept of attack paths. And really this concept can be as simple as, let's say this is a K8s cluster, right? This cluster was deployed by one of our developers and we didn't have any type of policies in place, right? That's a no-no. Essentially, let's say that specific K8s cluster has the API server exposed, right? So pretty large vector there. So what the attack path will reveal is how this specific API server is exposed to the web, right? So I'll have some type of, typically a nice little visualization, depending what vendor you're using. This will say Earth or something like that, internet. And this will show you how the attack path can actually play out in real time, right? So if I have access to the API server, I can likely enumerate a number of things. You don't want your API server exposed by any means, right? And then what are essentially the steps to correct this specifically, right? Obviously, you want your server minimized for its protection, but this will tell you in real time, right? If you have attack paths, this is your system, your CSPM system working and telling you you should focus on this, right? I know I might be going a little bit over my time or close to about the 10 minutes, but I wanted to at least keep it in a nutshell. I'll add some links, right? I went here to the official source, right, to see how vendors are actually describing cloud security posture management. And this breakdown, you can find a number from Palo Alto and others. The only reason I've gone here is because I'm very familiar with the documentation of Microsoft, right? But this really breaks down some things you want to be aware of, right? You want to maintain your policy visibility like we talked about. You want to scan for updates. You want to make sure you're compliant with HIPAA, PCI DSS, whichever framework you fall under, right? And then you want to identify and automatically remediate cloud misconfigurations. What this essentially talks about here, that auto remediation phase, will typically be facilitated in a number of ways. You can define certain parameters, i.e. if a storage bucket is open, when that is detected, you can have it auto remediate for either policy or an enforcement mechanism to ensure that once that is ran, it will rectify that situation. It will essentially privatize that storage bucket. Now, that's a very simple example. They get a lot larger depending on your environment, but also the resources. So just wanted to make a quick 10-minute video. Hope this helps. Let me know if you want more content like this. I want to demystify some of the more obscure types of concepts in a more digestible format so everyone can understand.